It's not hard for me to imagine they blew through $30 million. Why? Number one, I watched them gut the entire area of the building where the offices are located. It was quite a process watching them dismantle and rebuild the office suites. As a person interested in renovations, this was dramatic, speedy, and no doubt costly.
Look, I'm interested in sociological research, psychological research, and I always think that begins with comfort. You've got to do it in the right kind of environment, right? Hey everybody, we're doing a recorded video here. Look at this great, amazing article that Sitch dug up. Oh my God, it's insane. Sitch, tell us about this article.
Well, so Ibram X. Kendi, a good friend of the show, is getting in some trouble.
Good friend of the show.
Yes.
Star of the show.
Is getting in trouble because apparently he was paid lots of money to produce anti-racism research, and 3 years have gone by, and people haven't really seen
research.
Research.
Look, that's what we're always complaining about. Why aren't they doing more research on this? Dialogue Always will be happy to know that someone finally did some research here.
Well, that's the problem. They didn't.
What? How
that's
much?
Why there's no research, Adam. They give them money and then they don't do it.
I see $43 million here. Hopefully that's not the research. Let's get into the article. Let's read a little bit of this article.
Okay. Amid mass layoffs, BU, Boston University Center for Anti-Research accused of mismanagement of funds and disorganization. Uh-oh.
Anti-racist research there. You messed up a little bit. We can just
Did I say
going.
Racist research?
No,
I mean, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, basically. Look, it's Freudian slip, but...
Right. Boston University hired Ibram X. Kendi to lead its new center for anti-racist research. In 2020, a year marked by a global pandemic and a nationwide racial tension. 3 years later, after at least $43 million in grants.
$43 million. Yep. Oh my God.
Grants and gifts and what sources say has been an underwhelming output of research. Uh-oh. The Center for Anti-Racist Research laid off almost all of its staff last week.
$43 million. That's a lot of money.
So after 3 years and $43 million, they've produced an underwhelming amount of research and laid off almost everyone that worked there.
Okay, you've piqued my interest. Where's this going?
Multiple former staff members allege that a mismanagement of funds, high turnover rate, and general disorganization have plagued the center since its inception. The $43 million, according to a 2021 budget records obtained by the Daily Free Press, includes general support such as $10 million from Twitter's co-founder Jack Dorsey, as well as donations for specific projects.
Right, yeah.
Thank you, Jack, for taking $10 million and just flushing it down a hole. That was a good use right there. Kendi, National Book Award-winning author of How to Be an Anti-Racist, and Andrew W. Mellon, professor in the Humanities and History, professor at BU, founded the center 3 years after he founded the anti-research. I mean, listen, you could just replace anything with there and it would work. The racist research, the anti-racist research and policy center at American University. Kendi talked to Boston University today when BU Center first launched in 2020. Quote, "My hope is that it becomes a premier research center for researchers and for practitioners to really solve these intractable racial problems of our time," Kendi said to BU today. "Not only will the center seek to make that level of impact, but also work to transform how racial research is done." Well, wow. I hate to break it to you, Kendi, but someone paying you lots of money and you not doing anything about it is not transforming anything. That's as old as time.
Right. That's called grifting, right?
Since the first man could pick up a stick, there has been a grifter that grifted that stick away from that man.
Of course. That's a pretty ugly stick you got there. Look at this stick I got.
A week after the layoffs, BU announced Wednesday that they received complaints focused on the center's culture and its grant mismanagement practices. Quote,
okay.
Yes.
Well, just let me get this straight here. So look, they get $43 million. They're supposed to do research that's supposed to be revolutionary for dealing with the racist problem.
Right.
And everyone that they seem to hire is like, what the hell are we doing here? Who's in charge?
I mean, listen, why would you think that a leftist woke research facility would behave any other way differently? I mean,
I know. This is comedy gold here. Okay.
Hierarchies and objectivity, these are the influences and practices of the white supremacy. I don't know if you know that.
Okay.
Quote, we are expanding our inquiry to include the center's management culture and the facility and staff's experience with it, BU spokesman Colin Riley said. Boston University and Dr. Kendi believe strongly in the center's mission, and he takes strong exceptions to the allegations made in recent complaints and media reports. Well, that's good to know.
So they got some complaints. The university's stepping in here, and they're saying, look, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, and Kendi's like, listen, nothing to see here. Everything's fine. The Compliance Service Office received an anonymous complaint in 2021 about the sender from Saida Grundy, an associate professor of sociology at BU and former CAR employee. The complaint detailed multiple high-level employees leaving suddenly and allegations of a workplace culture that included fear of retaliation and discrimination. What a surprise. You hire a bunch of woke people to do a bunch of woke research, and then they go woke on you. I mean, you know.
Right. Anybody, any private business that's hiring woke people, this is exactly what they're afraid of. Complaints of fear, retaliation, and discrimination appearing in the HR department, right?
I mean, Kendi's essentially like, listen, let's make it, we need to figure out why all the foxes are stealing all the chickens. So let's get the Fox Research Institute for Fox chicken stealing and hire a bunch of fox to work on this problem.
Exactly. Yeah. Why? How come the chickens? Look, these are research chickens and keep disappearing.
They keep disappearing. What's going on here? After submitting the complaint, Grundy then personally went to the then provost Gene Morrison in 2021 to discuss the alleged toxic work culture and grant mismanagement.
Oh my God.
Among other significant concerns, Grundy said she sent a follow-up email after that meeting, and Morrison did not reply.
A strongly worded email that no one replied to.
Ghosted. After Provost Morrison was instrumental in Kendi's hiring, according to Grundy in BU Today. Quote, the pattern of amassing grants without any commitment to producing the research obligated to them continues to be standard operating procedures at CAR, Grundy wrote to Morrison. This is not a matter of slow launch. To the best of my knowledge, there is no good faith commitment to fulfilling funded research projects at CAR. Oh my God, that is like the most devastating allegation someone working at a research facility that's funded by grants could ever levy. Just say they're just sucking up money with no dedication or good faith fulfillment or good faith commitment to fulfilling anything that people are donating money to do.
It sounds a little grifty. I'm not going to lie.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Grundy said the center ceased communication with her when her year-long contract came to an end in June of 2021, which she said was retaliation for speaking up about the center's underwhelming work impact on campus. Wow. So even in 2021, she was like trying to raise the red flag here.
Right.
Supposedly.
Look, they're doing nothing. All they're doing is cashing checks.
Right. The university reported that Black undergraduate student population is about 4.8% in 2021 and 2022. Kendi's hiring and the founding of the center were BU's way to address the race problem, Kendi said. Quote, they don't want to address Black enrollment because they don't want to be seen as a school that's getting Blacker because they want to raise their prestige, Grundy said. That's the real racism.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Look, okay, so this person that left, this disgruntled person that left was upset about the demographic makeup of the college. They're like, you got to get more Black people at this school, and they don't want to do it.
Yeah, and they made the accusation that they're intentionally not wanting to do it because to do so, to have more Black students there, would lower the prestige of the college.
So that's quite an allegation.
Yes. Though, again, if you're opening the Woke Center for Woke Research Institute, should you be surprised when you hire someone who's super woke and says, you're not woke enough for me, you're all racist?
I know. Seems like you kind of attract that personality type, right?
Yeah. Who could have foreseen this? Philip Copeland. Now that's an unfortunate name.
Copeland?
Copeland. From a land of cope. A clinical associate professor in the School of Social Work and former assistant director of the Narrative Office at CAR, the Narrative Office.
The Narrative Office.
Yes.
Hilarious.
Spinning a bunch of narratives. Spent 2 years developing educational programming for the center. He left his role in June. Quote, the narrative, okay, that seems to be coming from CAR and from BU is that this is some innovative organizational pivot or redesign rather than an institutional failure for which people need to be held accountable, he said before the inquiry was launched. There needs to actually be an explanation to the people who invested time and energy in the center. And also money. Don't forget money.
Yeah, they don't care. They're all rich people anyway.
Two emails were
trying
sent
to pay for their racism.
2 emails were sent to Kendi's chief of staff requesting comment from CAR, and Kendi were not answered. Shock.
Yeah.
Layoffs and funding. Copeland said to his knowledge, these massive layoffs are unheard of at BU. Quote, it does damage to this area of work because there are already people out there that are trying to discredit anti-racism, Copeland said. To have such a high-profile person be associated with leading organization that fails so spectacularly, that has a ripple effect. Yeah, I mean, when you have like BLM or Kendi or any of these, all these big names and fighting against racism, they all turn out to be hucksters and frauds. What a shock.
Yeah, obviously there's going to be articles like this all over right-wing media.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
Yeah. Laughing and pointing.
Yeah. And
we would never do anything like that.
But also, I mean, he's completely correct because there's going to be widespread articles about this and not even just in right-wing publications, in all publications. And next time someone comes along saying, hey, let's have some movement or organization that's going to fight racism, people are going to be like, it's going to be another BLM. Oh, it's going to be another Kendi. You know, they're not going to involve themselves.
Yeah, this is the Daily Free Press, an independent student paper at Boston University. I don't know that it is like a political paper.
This is a good article for a student newspaper. This article's killer.
Well, because all the journalist students are like, ha-ha.
They care, I guess.
Yeah.
A CAR manager who requested to remain anonymous was laid off on September 13th. In several Zoom meetings, groups of 4 to 5 employees were let go in each meeting. The manager described the layoffs as rehearsed.
Oh, that's horrible.
We felt disposable, they said before the inquiry announcement. I'm surprised there's still no official statement. Actually, it adds to the disrespect, in my opinion, almost as if they can keep it under wraps.
So they rehearsed the firing meeting where they're just basically going to say, yeah, we're getting rid of all of you.
Yeah, of course. I'm surprised they didn't hire someone else to do it for them.
Oh, that's savage. That's savage.
They should just have like an AI voice bot do it like you know. They should have like they should make like a language learning model of Kendi that's like all just deep faked and just have it be the one that lays off people, you know.
Oh, that's horrible.
They said much of the work at the center was being postponed until Kendi, who was on leave as of July 31st, returned to work. His return to work coincided with layoffs to make room for CAR 2.0, according to emails obtained by the Daily Free Press. Quote, we've been hearing for weeks or months about a new vision for the center and how that would be communicated when he came back. He said, a lot of the reason why a lot of projects were on pause was because we didn't know what the vision was going to look like. That sounds like an excuse that they weren't doing anything.
Yeah, do they even know what the vision is going to look like? Probably not, right?
They're like, Kenny's not here. I guess we're going to sit around twiddling our thumbs for a month.
Yeah.
Former staff members said the center appeared to prioritize fundraising and revenue over research. It, quote, if something was not sufficiently revenue producing, then it wasn't for CAR's time, Copeland said. Wow.
That's allegations made a couple times here now.
Capitalism, baby. BU is not commenting on the reason for the layoffs, but according to multiple people familiar with the matter, Kendi told staff that the model of the center is not currently financially sustainable. They got $43 million, and he's like, listen, it's not enough money. It's not sustainable. We can't do it. We need more money to create, quote, anti-racist research and data, whatever the hell that means.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they just like invested all the money in Bitcoin or something. Let's just, set up an investment fund here. It'll be great.
I bet you that if in 2020 they had taken that $43 million and invested in Bitcoin, they'd be better off that now than they are today. Okay.
I don't know. 2020 might have been the high, but
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe they did have some investment firm rip them off.
Copeland said that earlier this year, the center staff were told at least one funder would not continue investing in the center because they were unhappy with the work being done. Quote, people started to get nervous, Copeland said. A funder, or more than one funder, was like, basically, we're seeing the same thing that your staff are seeing, which is that the center's having a problem and we're not going to keep giving you money.
Yeah, we want results.
Results are part of Western patriarchy and oppression. I don't know if you know this. Spencer Piston, an associate professor of political science who works as the faculty lead in the policy office at the center, said the layoffs are surprising given that the new fellowship model will involve hiring new people. He said he's unsure if his own job is secure at the center. Quote, it's pretty hard for me to imagine they blew through $30 million in 2 years, Piston said. There's been a lack of transparency about how much money comes in and how it's spent from the beginning, which comports with a larger culture of secrecy. How many people, like, how big was this staff? They said it was like 30 or 40 people, and they got $43 million over 3 years to create anti-racist research. Where was all this money going?
Yeah, you got to wonder. You definitely got to wonder.
Somebody knows. Somebody at the college must know. Multiple CAR staff members said the center was disorganized and Kendi was ill-equipped to lead. The center hired an executive director to run operations in January 2022, but they left after 14 months. Just because you're a good scholar in your field doesn't mean that you know how to run an organization. That's why lots of people don't do that, Copeland said about Kendi. I don't know if it's a disciplinary issue as much as it is a leadership ability issue. Wow. CAR's work so far. Okay, so now we're going to see, like, what exactly has CAR done? I bet you it's just stunning.
And
research.
CAR is the Center for Anti-Racist Research. Yeah, exactly. They're just abbreviating it to CAR.
The center is split into 4 offices: research, narrative, policy, advocacy.
Okay.
Doesn't that sound like something like from like George Orwell?
Right.
The policy, the research, the Center for Narrative and Advocacy.
The funders wanted to see the research. They're focused on the narrative. They're like, look, narrative is easy. We just, write a bunch of pamphlets.
Talk about your shared learned experience.
This is about entertainment here.
Right. There you go. It's like the Hassan route. A former CAR employee involved in research leadership at the center in 2020 said many investors were interested in quantitative research about racial disparities. Specifically, grant funding ranged from funding the COVID racial data tracker to health and food disparity research, summing hundreds of thousands of dollars. With tens of millions of dollars total, the center was well funded to meet these goals, the anonymous source said. Quote, there's a mismatch between the amount of money that CAR has received from these grants and what they've actually produced. You can juxtapose that with other research centers, either at BU or other universities that have received a tiny fraction of what CAR has received and produced a lot more. Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah, that's horrible. It sounds like they want to know some of the things that we want to know. Like, I want detailed reports on this white supremacy problem. I want to know what it is that they keep talking about. Is it real?
I mean, you're not going to get that from Kendi, I'll tell you.
Yeah, unfortunately not. I mean, that would have been good for all of us.
The COVID Racial Data Tracker, a collaboration with The Atlantic that started during Kendi's time at AU, that was a previous college he was at, is the Racial Data Lab's sole project, according to the CAR's website. My God.
And COVID's over. Well,
the tracker stopped collecting data a year later in March of 2021.
This is
quote, the center has very, very much failed to deliver on its promise. It's been a colossal waste of millions of dollars, said Piston, noting that individual staff members did not make progress on specific projects while facing high turnover and lack of support from management.
Oh, they're blaming management.
Yeah, but okay, so they received millions of dollars to do quantitative research, and the only thing in that entire office produced was a COVID racial data tracker, which was started by Kendi when he was at a different university, and they stopped in 2021, and it hasn't produced anything for 2 years since.
That's insane, yeah.
Okay. A former car employee involved in research leadership, who was also asked to remain anonymous, I can't imagine why. I just wouldn't want my name associated with this sinking ship, said the center was not able to hire a qualified senior social scientist, and it seemed like Kendi was not interested in bringing one on or seemingly couldn't. Jeez, okay.
Wow.
And here's another part of their research, or I guess this is part of their narrative division. Inspired by a Boston-based abolitionist newspaper from the 1830s, Carr and the Boston Globe launched the Emancipator in 2021 and began publishing in 2022. Quote, if there was ever a body of people who should be arguing out the definition of a term, particularly a seemingly politically charged term like racism, why would it not be journalists? Kendi told the New York Times in 2021 about the Emancipator. Quote, they should define the term based on evidence. What does that even mean? How do you define the term racism based on evidence? It doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't, no.
This is the guy who famously...
in how people use the term?
I don't even know what that means.
Look, Webster's puts it in a book and we all use it that way.
Yeah, why do you need to hire scientists to spend millions of dollars to redefine the word racism?
Yeah. This
is the guy who famously defined racism and anti-racism with the word racism in the definition.
Oh, yeah.
No wonder that's why he had to, we're being too hard. That's why he had to hire research scientists to do it for him. He's like, when I tried to define racism, I had the word racism in the definition and people didn't like that. So we need to get some crack researchers to like really figure this out. The Emancipator, while still active with a bostonglobe.com domain, is no longer associated with the Boston Globe after a 2-year partnership, according to internal emails obtained by the Daily Free Press. The paper is currently searching for a new editor-in-chief to replace the 2 former editors-in-chief. Copeland, who was involved with the narrative office, the Office of Coping, said the decision to cut ties with the Boston Globe was confusing, much like the decision to cancel the book festival. The Globe has much more legitimacy and reach than a little startup publication that nobody's heard of yet, Copeland said, while acknowledging the Emancipator's work so far. Copeland said none of his work came to fruition, which includes developing coursework for a graduate degree and undergraduate minor in anti-racist studies.
Wow.
Okay, so first of all, you have this guy, Copeland, who's coping so hard. He's making completely useless graduate and undergraduate degrees. You're going to go to school, you're going to go to Boston University, you're going to spend thousands of dollars and get a degree in anti-racist studies.
Yeah, that's just without doing the research first. I mean, what are you even going to teach these people?
What are you going to even do with that degree? That's such a waste of money. Oh my God. It's a good thing that none of this guy's coursework was developed. Okay. He's basically just trying to grift people out of thousands of dollars.
So it sounds like they started a newspaper. They had the newspaper with a larger publication. Yeah, exactly. To kind of piggyback off of their status. They split ways. So the paper fell apart. They had some book fair plan, but they canceled that.
Yep.
And then this guy was developing some program. You know, they didn't even do any research. So what are they going to teach in the program? This is just a nightmare.
I'm super curious to see. I wish we could see like what was the day-to-day functioning of these offices.
A lot of coffee, a lot of Twitter.
Right. That's what we should do. We should fund a research project to go find everyone that worked there, check their Twitter feeds to see how active they were.
Oh, yes. That would be good. Yeah, that'd be good. I'm sure they were very active.
Quote, said Copeland, the whole thing has been abandoned in part because I just think Carr was not able to generate sufficient support from the faculty to pull it off. The manager who was laid off last Wednesday said while progress was made, work completed across the sectors, especially in the policy office, was not highlighted. The anonymous manager said, quote, it was mostly about him, referring to Kendi, rather than the work. And it was just very difficult to highlight the work over the founder. Oh, okay. Some ego claims there. The 2021 to 2022 anti-bigotry convening, a policy project mentioned in the donor impact report, brought together 35 scholars for an output of short essays regarding different intersections of identity, all funded by a $200,000 grant from the Ford Foundation, according to the car budget document.
Okay.
The convening was an academic year-long virtual fellowship culminating in a report of collected essays that contributed to, quote, the public conversations about bigotry by focusing particularly on its structural aspects, according to the center's website.
Right. So they did a bunch of essays on bigotry.
Yeah, they needed $200,000. Okay.
Right.
$200,000 to pay 35 people to do essays, to do book reports, not research, to do book report essays on racism in America.
Yeah. Excellent work.
Grundy said several faculty affiliates who participated in the convening walked away from the project soured by what they felt was not only an exploitative ask, because they wanted more money to write their book reports, but also a deeply anti-intellectual endeavor. Anti-intellectual because the project solely promoted Kendi's work, not a scholarly dialogue. Ooh.
Well, no, I think the exploitative ask was they asked them because they were black or
oh, maybe,
or some POC,
right?
So they want them to talk about their experience being marginalized, and they're like, "Look, I'm a academic here. Like, I'm more into actual research."
I think it was a money thing. That'd be my guess. They're probably like, you're not paying us enough to write our book reports. And they're probably also paying, like, there's probably some bigger names that were getting a lot more money. And so people were like pissed off that it wasn't an equitable share of the money that they were getting.
Well, look, they should have dug into that because I don't know what the exploitation was. Right. I mean, if you ask certain people, if you ask John McWhorter to start talking about how he's been marginalized, or who's a Supreme Court justice, Clarence Thomas.
Right.
You're going to get like, why are you asking me about this?
Sure, maybe.
I'm a Supreme Court justice. Get out of my face.
What's next? Riley, the Boston University spokesperson, said a previous examination of the center's grant management practices will continue while new information comes to light about the center's culture. Quote, we recognize the importance of Dr. Kendi's work and the significant impact it has on anti-racist thinking and policy, Riley said. Piston, however, wrote in a statement, we complained in writing years ago to the provost, who did not even bother to respond to us. A more appropriate response would be to remove Dr. Kendi from directorship, and hand governance over to the fired staff, who have been working intensely with a deep commitment to the cause of racial justice. Wow. So an institute that was created by a bunch of woke lefties and hire a bunch of woke lefties are like, you should fire the boss and give us
and turn it into a workers' co-op. I mean, that's basically what they're asking. So look, we're running a bit long here, but skip down to the comment by the Anon with the avatar of a woman. Read that comment real quick. And this is obviously speculation. I don't know if this comment is for real or just someone stirring stuff, but it's interesting.
Let's see.
It's pretty hard for me. Yeah, go ahead.
It's pretty hard for me to imagine they blew through $30 million in 2 years, Piston said. Oh, they're quoting the article. There's been a lack of transparency about how much money comes in and how it's spent from the beginning, which comports with a larger culture of secrecy. And the commenter said, it's not hard for me to imagine they blew through $30 million. Why? Number one, I watched them gut the entire area of the building where the offices are located. It was quite a process watching them dismantle and rebuild the office suites. As a person interested in renovations, this was dramatic, speedy, and no doubt costly. Number two, I always wondered where the head of the organization was, as it never seemed that he was in Boston or at Boston University when he appeared on TV or on a BU-sponsored Zoom event. Might be worthwhile to audit travel records to see what was going on there. I feel so badly for the 20 to 30 staff members that were fired. Sounds like it was a toxic work environment. I hope that they find healing in new positions. Further, I hope that BU HR will find roles for them somewhere in the university system. I don't. It seems as if BU wanted so badly to be adjacent to this big, popular young superstar talent and totally disregard the CV of the person they put in place. In academia, this is not unusual because there's such a fight and desire to be relevant and find ways to attract more students and funding. It's all about the mighty dollar, and BU's Charles River campus leadership has blown it once again.
So, I mean, I was particularly struck by this renovating the building. Look, I'm interested in sociological research, psychological research, you know, and I always think that begins with, comfort. You've got to do it in the right kind of environment, right? Got to have the right feng shui in your lab.
Listen, Kendi walked into that office and he's like,
this piece of shit.
Some white guy built this office, okay? And it just reeks of oppression. It needs to be completely gutted and rebuilt like our society from the ground up. That's the only way to achieve true anti-racism.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see where this goes. It would have been nice if they actually did some research that we could look at and maybe, you know, evaluate it for whatever it was. But it looks like that was just too difficult to do. So I'm not interested in reading their essays of oppression. Such are you? They're $200,000 worth of essays of oppression we'll skip. But if any research comes out of this, you know, we'll let you know. You got any final thoughts before we sign off?
This is the perfect symbolism of wokeness in our society, giving some hot airbag a bunch of money to produce nothing of value. And everyone points the fingers, and it's just all gutted and empty inside.
So true. Painful. Well, we'll be looking forward to Dialogue Always comments. So if anyone else wants to comment too, feel free. Thanks a lot. See you in the next video. Hi, you just listened to a clip from the Sitch and Adams show. If you like what you heard, you can listen to our live show right here on this channel on Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you want, you can super chat us. We read $20 and up super chats on the show and then do a follow-up stream on the following Tuesday where we read the rest of the unread super chats and interact with fans of the show. Subscribe to this channel right here to listen to the live show or to listen to more of our awesome clips.